On May 2nd, 2025, this year, the two siblings, Lilly and Jack Sullivan, were reported missing from their home in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. And despite major search by land, air, incorporating dogs and drones and helicopters, followed by what is now a 4-month intensive police investigation, very little information has actually come forward. The investigation has led to applications for access to records by the RCMP, and those along with also records of witness accounts. These were released by the court in redacted documents following a request by Canadian Press, CP, Globe and Mail, and CBC. In this video, we will start to break down those documents. There's 14 PDFs containing 500 pages. If you find this case important, please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts and comments. And thank you for following along. Please hit the like and subscribe and follow. Let's focus on the case and hope for the safe return of Lilly and Jack. Here is a breakdown of the different departments and the number of investigators listed in the document. So we have 4 investigators from the RCMP Pictou County General Investigations Section, 3 from the RCMP Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit, 1 investigator with the RCMP Colchester County, 1 investigator from Southwest Nova Major Crime Unit, 1 investigator in the Pictou County Integrated Street Crime Enforcement Unit, 1 from the Musquodoboit Harbor RCMP, 2 investigators with the Enfield RCMP, 2 in the RCMP Commercial Crime Section, 1 from the RCMP Nova Scotia Emergency Response Team, 1 in the RCMP Newfoundland and Labrador Truth Verification Section. That would be polygraph, by the way. 1 with the RCMP Underwater Recovery Team. They've listed a total of 18 investigators who have been working on this case. All right, so why did I just go through all that instead of scrolling past that list? Well, it's worth a look. It shows where the RCMP is focusing their efforts. You can see how many investigators are involved in the different departments, and that gives you an indication of the resources that have been used. All right, so let's take a look at some of the witness statements that have been included in this document. And this section here has a few interesting points that I wanted to sort of focus on and pull out for you. So here we have Malaya reported her children, Lilly and Jack, may have left the residence and were missing. She said they were both possibly autistic and were known to wander. She said their boots were gone. Malaya reported them missing at 10:01 a.m. The dispatch information reported police arrived at 10:27 a.m. So this is going to be important, the fact that she reported them missing at 10:01 a.m. The other point worth making is that there have been statements in this case that the children didn't go outside on their own. Malaya, in fact, said that in her very first interview, that somebody was always with them. She told police, however, that they were known to wander. Children who are known to wander is going to be a lot different than children who are not accustomed to being outside on their own and are always with an adult.
They're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them.
Now, that was mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. We now have a statement information from Janie Mackenzie, who is the children's step-grandmother. She is the mother of Daniel Martel, who is the stepfather. And the first part here, after she was done talking to him refers to Janie's brother, Ron Mackenzie. She went back to bed and must have dozed off after scrolling on Facebook. She originally said she might have learned the children had gone around 8:48 a.m. before she talked to Ron, but later she clarified the timeline. This is interesting because Janie has maintained that the timeline looked more like her brother Ron called her at 8:48 a.m. to see if she wanted to go to town. She said no, and she went back to bed. And then we have her waking up to her own dog in the RV barking, which is when she heard Lilly and Jack. And that time was estimated at shortly after 9. This is the first time where we see that Janie ever even thought that she had learned that Lilly and Jack may have been gone as early as 8:48 a.m. And for those who haven't been following the case too closely, Janie Mackenzie lives in the RV, which is on the same property that Lilly and Jack Sullivan lived. And the children lived in the trailer, which is in the foreground here, with stepfather Daniel Martel, their mom, and baby sister Meadow. And Janie lived in the RV, which is set in the background there. And the children's swing play area was to the left of the RV and on the opposite side of that fence line that you see. Getting back to this document, I want to just draw your attention to the language that's used in this, because it could be revealing. Now, I want to preface this by saying we don't know if these are Janie's words or the words of the investigator who wrote the report. And I think that really needs to be highlighted, because there is different language in here, and the two really do mean something entirely different. And I'll just point out what I mean. It says, she, meaning Janie, woke up again when she heard Daniel yelling for Jack and Lilly. She didn't think anything of it because Jack liked to look for bugs and gets into things when he's doing that. So she thought Daniel might have been yelling at Jack for that reason. Now, we have to assume at this point Janie is in bed. She's in her RV. She doesn't really quite know what's happening, other than the fact she can hear Daniel's raised voice. But if if Daniel is calling for Jack and Lilly, that's a very different scenario than yelling at. Okay? And I point this out because there was a YouTuber, Mike MX, I think his channel is, who actually did a video on the speculation that if Daniel was yelling at, sounding angry or upset, could this have been a motivation for the children to have gone into the woods? Because when we talk about the children wandering off into the woods, the first question is, why would they have? Well, if Daniel sounded annoyed or angry and the children thought they were in trouble, possibly that could have been a motivating factor for the children to go off in the woods. So the language in this report is really important. Was Daniel yelling, quote, at Jack, or was he yelling for them? Very, very different scenario and a very different tone. All right. So we then have, when she came outside, this is Janie now, after waking up again, she saw Malaya standing at the rock pile holding Meadow. Malaya said Jack and Lily were missing for about, and this is redacted, and she had called 911. This is really important. She had called 911. Now, why that's important is because we know from this document, as we saw earlier, that phone call to 911 was made at 10:01. I actually did a video about a week ago, and that was simply based on the information that I had gone through that we already knew, estimating that Janie came out of her RV at 10 o'clock. I was a little shy. So she obviously came out of her RV to see what was going on after 10, because the call was made at 10:01. Obviously, there had to be a timeline where Malaya was talking to the dispatch of 911. And if she had already called 911, it may have been as late as 10 after 10 that Janie emerged from her RV. Why this is so important is because it ties in with the overall timeline. Now, redacted in this document is the time that the children, according to Malaya, had been missing. According to Janie, Malaya told her the children had been missing for 20 minutes. In the video I did last week, I had said about 50 minutes. In fact, now we can sort of actually wonder if they were gone nearly an hour. The reason for why this is important is I maintain that all three of them, Malaya, Daniel, and Janie, may well have pushed the timeline. They may have tweaked it among themselves in order so that it would sound as though the children had been missing for 20 minutes. To them, that may have sounded better to authorities than to have said they had been gone for an hour or nearly an hour. But if Janie was the last person to have heard the children, which was shortly after 9 when her dog barked, we are looking at close to, well, still 50 minutes to an hour that the children were gone and last heard of. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. There's 500 pages, so there's a lot to go through. I will be doing regular videos on this document as I find things within it that either add to the information that those following the case already know, or if there are anomalies that are found. It's interesting. We are getting new information out of these documents that we've never had before. Please like, please follow, please subscribe, support the channel, and make sure that you are following if you are interested in going through these documents and seeing the highlights that I will be picking up. Thanks so much to all those people that are following, that are subscribing and supporting me and the work that I do.